You're listening to Ground Zero. I'm Craig Lewis. So, Alexander Dugin's daughter killed in a bombing in Russia. Toyota SUV driving exploded about 12 miles west of the capital. It happened Saturday night, according to the Russian Investigative Committee. Of course, they're blaming Ukraine. Ukraine saying, we are not a criminal state like the Russian Federation. But sabotage on a vehicle has become a lot easier to do now that cars are becoming more dependent on electronic computer systems. You know, hackers have long been able to cause a lot of damage to people's privacy, reputations, pocketbooks. But until recently, it usually wasn't possible for hackers to kill people. Now, many years ago, there was a well-known demonstration where hackers were able to hack into a Jeep Cherokee from miles away. They actually gained control of its internal network. And then they tampered with its transmission, its brakes, the accelerator, and other safety-critical features. The hackers were named Charlie Miller and Chris Velasek, and they demonstrated their skills on how to disable a vehicle's brakes remotely and their ability to take over the car's steering. Now, driving around in a car with known vulnerable software is dangerous. Now, car companies should be proactively notifying customers about the defect and perhaps even doing a formal recall. They should also be working on better remote update capabilities so that security flaws can be fixed automatically. But more broadly, car companies need to realize that they're in the software business now, okay? And I don't think security is one of those important responsibilities of software companies. You know, we don't want any malware getting into the car. We don't want any malware, messing with your transmission or messing with your brakes or your accelerator. Companies like Microsoft and Google have hundreds of security experts on their staffs, and security flaws in Windows and Android generally won't get anyone killed. But car hacking, that's another story. Car hacking can get people killed. So car companies should be taking computer security even more seriously. Now, I don't know if the bombing in Russia was having something to do with a glitch in the computer system. However, there are other ways to set off an explosive. Of course, electronic ways to set off explosives in a car. Sabotage has always been a question of whether or not it's possible to sabotage a car. But back in 2015, this hacking test actually vindicated many conspiracy theorists who said that the government can actually sabotage a car of someone they see as enemy of the state. So you go back to, let's go back to Princess Diana. We're going to be, 25 years ago? In fact, this month, August of 1997, Princess Diana died in a car crash. And, of course, they blamed it on the paparazzi, and nobody really believed that. But there were rumors that Princess Diana was murdered. And the reason why she was murdered was because, according to conspiracy theorists, that the monarchy wanted Diana dead because she was allegedly pregnant with the child of Dodi Al-Fayed. So we all know the story. Her car sped out of control, rammed into the 13 column of the Pont d'Alma tunnel in France. It killed everyone except Trevor Rees-Jones, who was Princess Diana's bodyguard. 2 weeks ago, or roughly 2.5 weeks ago, it was reported that Indiana GOP Representative Jackie Walorski was killed in a car crash. And this happened at a time where GOP officials were being targeted because of their beliefs about Roe v. Wade. And this, of course, raised suspicion that perhaps her car was sabotaged and the driver lost control of the steering in the vehicle. At first, we were told, and I got when I was reading up on this, I remember a report saying that there was a woman who veered into the lane and hit them head on. Then I read that apparently the driver of the vehicle had no control over the steering and that eventually the car rolled into the other lane and hit head on and hit the other vehicle. So there was a congresswoman's aide. Her name was Emma Thompson. There were two other people in the car. And like I said, the driver, according to what I read, Walorski's driver lost control of the vehicle, lost control of steering. Steering went out or something happened like that. Now, the thing about Walorski is that she was an advocate for children and families and an influential voice for women in the House GOP conference, and she helped grow their ranks over time. And she'd been set to take on a leadership role on the Ways and Means Committee if Republicans took back the House in November. Now, she would have overseen the Worker and Family Support Subcommittee. Jackie Walorski supported a package of legislation to combat human trafficking. She called it modern-day slavery, and she said that she was very much against human trafficking, sex trafficking, pedophilia, pedophile trafficking. And, of course, there's some conspiracy theorists that say that it was her stance on human trafficking and abortion that got the attention of detractors and that they sabotaged her car. And, of course, the steering went out and her car crashed and she was killed along with her staff. Now, regardless of how cliche it all sounds, from conspiracy circles, we see a pattern, okay? And the pattern always is that some actor who is about to blow the lid on pedophile rings ends up getting killed. Now, the thing about this is that while there may be some legitimacy to all of this, there's a whole lot of tall tale telling that I want to kind of I want to clear the air here, because I think what happens is whenever stuff like this goes down, we have amateur night and conspiracy theorists, and I don't even know who they are. Just all of a sudden they become superstars overnight because of clickbait. And regardless of how cliche it sounds, there's a pattern, and it most definitely needs to be investigated rather than stated to be speculated as a motive. I mean, the motive to kill Jackie Walorski was to kill her, to silence her about her her stand on Roe v. Wade and her stand on child trafficking. Yeah, I mean, she's always been strong like that. So why wasn't she killed earlier? What did she do? See, that's the thing is you gotta, when you form a conspiracy theory or when you want to say something like that, you say, well, she was a very moral person. A very moral person that somebody didn't approve of, and so they sabotaged her steering column. Well, yeah, we know that cars can be hacked. We know that steering columns and accelerators can be hacked. We know that engines can be hacked. But can we prove it? No. That's what's so horrible about the sabotage, is this can be done with plausible deniability. Just like anyone who's hanged, people who have been reported to have been hanged, that's another thing. They can make it look like a suicide. Those who do that can make it look like suicide. They can sabotage a car, make it look like a suicide or an accident. That's what's really, really sick about how they can hack into cars. Now, look, I want to say this before we get into this any deeper, okay? I'm well aware that accidents happen. I know that people are harmed and sometimes they die because of accidents. An accident is known as thoroughly unfortunate. It's random. It's undesired. And eventually it happens because of negligence or a grave mistake, or, I mean, it's horrible. And it's a fully undesired event, which becomes a matter of regret. Generally, accidents happen on busy roads. Sometimes they happen on empty roads. They happen because of some issue with the car, like systems or brake failures or steering failures. I mean, sometimes people haven't much time to avoid accidents because they drive their vehicles very fast and they drive while drunk or high. And there are many logical explanations for car crashes. But the cause that is rarely brought up is sabotage, which later can indicate that the accident was planned in order to intentionally kill or maim the victim. And we do know that when you're a politician or somebody who is well known, who's taking stances, and maybe you're pissing somebody off, they can hire a contract killer to come in and do something to your vehicle. Hack it from miles away. It can be done.